Did you know that we can see a traumatized brain under an X-ray scan in terms of its malfunctioning? Did you know that trauma is stored in the body? So if my egg that makes my child was made in my mother, don't you see that it at least takes 2 generations to get through one issue? So let's say I have issues with my mother that I never resolved. Don't you think those issues will show up in my relationship with my child? Even more so if that child is a female child? And when that female child starts raising her children, don't you think that trend will continue? One mother passing it to her child until everybody's sick of it and somebody raises their hand and say they've had enough and they're going to break away from the family and do better. And they do, and the family shuns them and makes fun of them and ostracizes them and makes them feel like they're the stupid one. They're the low vibrational one. They're the one here, when really they're the one higher. But the family is so sick and diseased that they think it's like this when it's like that. And by the way, this is why water signs are some of the most emotionally sick people, especially if you find it at the moon. Because for water, it looks like this. You have to swim downstream to get to the top. It's a lot harder than swimming up. But swimming up is what makes it hard, is you need a lot of passion. You've got guts, so you just got to go for it. And water is the most sick element because it requires purging when it gets stagnated. If we can't take out the pus, we can't heal. I love seeing people who have Capricorn at the sun, moon, or rising. I love meeting karmics. Let's just get that out the way, point blank, period. So that would be for you Capricorn, for you Scorpios, for you Aquarians, Aquarian sun, moon, or rising. I love having readings with you guys because you guys carry a lot of karma. So there's a lot of family history with you guys. So when I'm meeting you and your ancestors. And I'm trying to like channel them as I'm reading your chart to communicate to you what you need to know. Because unlike all of the other zodiac signs, you guys were actually selected by your ancestors specifically to help move your bloodline along. Your life isn't yours because it is in part theirs. And they've written into you a contract, a code, something that they wanted to accomplish. They sat among themselves and decided that you would be the best person to do that. So your mission is very important in the same way that everyone's mission is important, but in your case it's important also on the personal level because it is tied to the evolution of your bloodline. Usually when these guys are brought out, it's because everything else has failed. And that's why they have some of the worst lives, because they keep re-meeting the same people and those people are not getting better, they just keep getting worse. For those of you who are interested in this whole idea of like ancestors, karma, and you know, what our bloodline carries, which I can tell a lot about that from your astrology natal chart, whether or not you're part of these 3 zodiac signs that are mentioned or not. But I would encourage you to get a reading so you can get into some of that for those of you who are curious about it. So link in bio for you to schedule a reading. But Capricorn, I have a feeling that if I was to sit down with you and look at your chart, I would have so much more to say because I'm very good at picking up patterns. I have a Virgo Mars. So in terms of being able to like notice patterns, anything that veers from the norm, I'm probably the most equipped person to do that. And the other advantage that you have if you were to meet with me is that I am also a karmic. I have a lot of karmic energy in my chart. You know, I have it all the way from the top to the bottom. So there is, and that's probably why I have a personal affinity for karmics, because I know what it takes to be a karmic. I know the suffering that is involved to be able to play that role. I know that the spiritual protection comes with the challenges of living a more challenging life than others. So a reading will be able to tell me where you are with your Saturn transit, who is your ruling planet, if you happen to have it at the rising. But if you're Capricorn sun, moon, or rising, or Aquarius sun, moon, or rising, you should always have a sense of your Saturn transit. where it is at, and that will help give you some guidance, because Saturn is all about restriction. In other words, what are your obligations? What are your responsibilities? What are you supposed to be doing? And this is why they have such harsh lives, because everything is taught via punishment. Because Saturn just teaches and punishes. There's no like middle ground. There's no, you tried your best. It's either you did or you didn't do it. And if you didn't figure it out, then you didn't do it. And you get punished because you were taught it. Kia said, I feel so disconnected from several versions of myself. It was such a big part of my story before. And it still is, but in a different way now, if that makes sense. Yes, absolutely. The reason why many people avoid healing is because in order to heal, we have to first get the pus out. You know, if you have an old wound that's been infected, and if it's been infected at the roots, which is what happens with the karmics, what happens with the karmics is that what you were sent here are things that they weren't able to finish. So your grandmother, your great-grandmother, your great-great-grandmother have a story to tell you about what they've been through. Same with your paternal side. And there's some things that transpired before that they weren't able to figure out so they could evolve, because everybody, don't ever let anyone trick you into believing anything else. But this is the story. We're all in hell. There's no other hell. This is hell. And we're here to get out of hell, okay? To get out of hell, we have to elevate our energy from dark to light. And as we get cleaner energetically, spiritually, with our intentions and our actions, we vibrate at a higher frequency and we can rise above. We go higher, closer to God, closer to the heavens. You know, we are all one force, but everybody is not at the same level. It's like a triangle, you know, which is for us fire signs. If you're interested, this is about alchemy. Everybody is alchemizing their energy at different levels. Alchemizing your energy means being able to balance out your energy between positive and negative, because you need both to manifest. People who cannot manifest are people who are not able to transform their energy, transmute their energy, take the fire energy, put it to the water energy if needed. This is why we all have all those zodiac signs. It's because we all have fire, air, you know, water, earth in our charts. But based on the situation you're dealing with, you need the right energy. If you and I are waiting at a restaurant, as an example, and I cut in front of you, and let's say I was preoccupied with something, you know, I'm going through a lot in my life, a lot of things are bothering me, you know, you guys know I just lost my mother-in-law, so I'm not really like in the best mind state during this time because it hasn't been that long. So let's say I'm like, my mind is like thinking and I'm far away place I'm not noticing, and I cut in front of this person. Depending on how balanced my energy is, there's going to be all sorts of different reactions, right? That we're going to have to that move from somebody else. Let's say you're the person in line. The person comes and cuts in front of you. I'm that person. Depending on what's going on with you and how well you're able to stay stable and manage what's going on so your energy is stable, you might threaten to harm me. You might gently let me know you're there. You might whisper it. You might yell it. But depending on how mentally, emotionally, energetically stable, it's going to look different. Somebody might even assume you're trying to fight them. Depending on like how damaged they are at that moment energetically, they might think that you're actually purposely trying to jump in front of them because you want to fight them. And the whole time you weren't even thinking about them or looking at them. And you didn't even care about them because you didn't notice them. Having balanced energy means that the reaction that we give to situations are also balanced. Balanced energy creates balanced behavior. When you're karmic, your energy is very unbalanced because your ancestors have struggled with a lot of things that have not been able to overcome. And this is why these three have some of the worst childhoods in all of astrology. So Santiago, for fear of sending you down the wrong path, because your purpose in this universe is so intentional, I would much rather speak about it with you in person. But I hope that some of the feedback that I've given you is something you can use for your situation, even if you're not ready to speak face to face. But your purpose in this universe is way more, you're vibrating at a higher level in terms of what your calling is. How well you're doing that, I don't know you, we've just met. But if you're vibrating closer to the tip here with your energy, you know, you're going to be handling those challenges well. But if you're not, you're going to be falling back into those same cycles that your ancestors have been reliving for the past thousands of years. And they're just waiting for that one person to come and finally learn the skills. Because here's the thing, when we heal our bloodline. And this is the thing that a lot of people don't get. Healing literally changes your DNA. Did you know that? So back to your point about feeling broken or different versions of you, that is a natural part of dealing with trauma. When you've lived traumatic experiences or have dealt with trauma, you understand that there will be fragmented parts of you that develop. And when I used to work as a therapist, a big part of coping with trauma is finally working through integration of personalities and moods. Because what happens to a lot of people who've been traumatized is that they like to leave the trauma where it happened. You know, it's like they got hit by a car and then they were in a hospital for a month and couldn't sleep next to the mom and dad, and they were only 5 years old and they were so scared. And they were surrounded by strangers and it was cold, the light was bright in that room. And the food was never good. It was a really miserable time. They couldn't get out of bed and they couldn't play, they couldn't have fun. That's trauma. But is that 8-year-old talking about it with somebody? Don't you think that 8-year-old, if they become an adult, if they have a child that happens to turn 8 years old, that it might trigger this event that happened to them that they never dealt with? So basically all humans are doing is giving each other the trauma that they didn't resolve. That's it. So the different versions of you are natural and normal, but the goal of therapy or healing is to really integrate them. This is what we talk about when we talk about balance. We're talking about integration of intelligence and emotion. So there's emotional intelligence, right? And then there's intellectual intelligence, two different sides of the brain. Left brain and right brain is what we're talking about. We're talking about cohesion, where there's balance on both sides, right? Because we all want to be deeply rooted like a mountain on earth. So that means we have to also balance our femininity and masculinity. When that person cuts in front of you at that restaurant, the masculine response is assuming they want to fight, so you become aggressive. That's the top of the masculinity response. Or you just outright punch them and start cursing them out. Didn't you see me standing here? Right? And then the extreme feminine response is to pretend like nothing happened, because you don't want any confrontation. You want to get along with everybody. And then somewhere in between there's a healthy path that all of us are supposed to follow. And that path will look like acknowledging the emotion that comes from that interaction, saying to yourself what the emotion is so that you're aware of what you're feeling when you're feeling it, owning that this is your feeling and it has nothing to do with that person intended to do or who they are or where they come from. Basically, stop pretending that you're that person and you live inside their body and you know what they're going through. And then using your throat chakra to stand up for yourself. Say, hi, I'm not sure if you saw me, but I was standing here. Balance. But many people don't have that. People that are struggling with their masculine energy, they're going to have a lot of resentment towards you, but they won't say a thing. But they will get home and call one of their friend or family member to talk about you. But really you needed them to speak up so they could learn, like, this behavior is not appropriate, let's fix it. Oh, someone said I look beautiful. Thank you so much for the compliment, I appreciate it. And someone earlier said they wanted to know who the karmics are. Capricorn, Aquarius, and Scorpio. This is why when these people leave your life falls apart. Always. Always. Because when they leave you, it means the mission is done. And Capricorn in particular is very aware of their mission. They do not play around. This is why they're so serious. It's not that they're mean. It's that they know why they came to Earth. They were very aware of this since they were little. So anything that you bring towards them that is not conducive to that bigger plan, they're not interested in that. It's not their business. Their business is what they know is their business. And this is why they're very serious about it. So that's my answer for you, Santiago. Who has the next astrology question? Someone is asking, does it matter what placements of the karmics, rising, sun, and moon, and especially if they have 3 or more placements in these signs, and 2 of them needing to be in their personal planets? So when I say 2 or more placements, I'm not talking about Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter. I'm talking about your personal placements. And what the standard approach to this is 2 of those placements need to come from your personal planets, because that's what makes it personal, is that those are your big 6. Kia said, yes, my best friend was a Capricorn. When he died, my healing journey began, and that's good. Yes. When Capricorn leaves, some shit's about to hit the fan, because they usually come to help you. Capricorn literally comes to give you their hand so you can hold it. And you can do it together, because they're very together conscious. And Aquarius comes to enlighten you, give you facts that you didn't know before, get you to think differently about things you never thought about before. And Scorpio comes to punish you. When a Scorpio comes into your life, it's not because you've been living well. For Scorpio, it's always a negative reason. For Capricorn, most of the time it's a negative reason. And for Aquarius, it could go either way. Because Aquarius assumes that maybe you just haven't been told that it's important to be kind and to be a good person, to be a humanitarian, to be someone that's devoted themselves to service and social justice. Maybe no one has told you that the only way Earth can become more loving and peaceful is if we become more loving and peaceful towards ourselves. And then, now that we recognize what that emotion is and we know how to maneuver that energy, we can then transfer it to one another. So Aquarians will, unlike the other 2, Aquarians will give you way more chances to get right, because they're a bit idealistic. This is why they're towards the end of the Zodiac wheel, right next to Pisces. So that's why I always say if an Aquarius doesn't like you, then you need to check yourself, because you're probably not a good person. Because Aquarius likes everybody. They like everybody. I mean, they may not want to associate with everybody, but they're the most non-judgmental, accepting of every ism that there exists in the world. So if they don't like you, it's because of a character flaw. It's not because they take friendship very Aquarius is a zodiac sign of friendship, so they take friendship very holy. Friendship is very holy in our book. It's very sacred. It's something that you honor. So they don't like a lot of people, so when they open their lives and hearts to you, they expect something back, which is integrity, ethics, values, dignity, which is something Capricorn would have already learned before they became Aquarius. But a lot of times, some people haven't learned these basic lessons in how they interact with each other. So Aquarius will teach you the longest. They will teach you the longest. But the other 2, they're not so generous. Capricorn, once they figure out that you're with mass, they're done. That's usually where they find the door. They find the door the fastest. Scorpio will stay a little bit longer because they're more emotional. They love very deeply. Capricorn does not love as deeply unless they're willing to die for you, because there's no in-between for Capricorn. It's all or nothing. So it's either I love you to death, like literally, or I don't at all. And I don't care. And it doesn't matter to me. Because he was never that serious. So when they love you, they give you their all. But when you don't return that same energy in kind, then the wrath follows. It's almost immediate. So if you have done a Capricorn wrong, or an Aquarius wrong, or a Scorpio wrong, then you should always know where your karma is coming from. It's always them. Because they're the cleanup crew. They come when you have been given chance after chance after chance, and your ancestors are tired. They're tired of reliving the same day every day. It's so boring. Like you keep doing what they did. And they're like, yeah, we did that already. We did that already. We did that already. We sent you to do something different. And here you are doing exactly what we did. It's exhausting to be a dead person and to watch this and to not have the power to lead this person that you love and you want them to go down the right path. And they don't listen. So that's what it's like being a karmic and being the ancestor of a karmic. Because most of you karmics, which is what's interesting about being a karmic, most of you karmics will give birth to a karmic. I'm a karmic and I gave birth to a karmic. So whatever karma is unresolved with you, it naturally just gets passed to the next person. It's just work. It's more work for the next person. Why put your future bloodline into more work when you could just heal and alleviate their load and heal the DNA and alchemize the energy and purify the genetics? You know, this whole separation between the physical and the spiritual, it's going away. This is the future. We now understand that there is no separation. That diseases can sometimes manifest as unresolved trauma. We now know this. Scientifically, we know this now. And I only know this because I live with a chronic illness. And my chronic illness is a result of my suppressed anger. My energy is very mild, it's very loving, it's very chilled. I don't really like a lot of conflict. But life wouldn't have me that way. Because of my karmic assignment, every time I met somebody, it was somebody that needed to be put in their place. And every time I would be disappointed. Always expecting more from people than how they see themselves. And once I realized that they never saw themselves as highly as I saw them, I'm done with my assignment. There's nothing else I can do for them because they have to see themselves. So I leave. Because the person who I thought was there is not. They don't exist. Because they're not tapped in. They're not locked in. They're not clocked in. They're not trying to learn. They're not trying to do new things. They're not trying to evolve. They're very happy being miserable. And they love the attention they get from it, especially that part. The attention from it, chef's kiss. And they're just going to make their ancestors suffer some more and their children suffer some more. And it just goes around. And it keeps going around until somebody bright comes along and says, we're smarter than this. We're better than this. Let's do better. Because this doesn't actually help us. And then, of course, because the majority of them are sick, they're going to turn on you. So the people that you came to help are your first haters. Because they don't want to heal. They don't want to heal. They don't want to do better. They don't want to get better. So now they resent you. Because you make them feel bad about themselves. Because that's still where you left them at. But at the same time, not courageous enough. Not loyal enough to themselves. Not loving enough towards themselves to stop dead in their tracks and go, I deserve better. We deserve better. We want better. We are better. We feel better. We know better. So we're going to do better. And we're going to speak better. And we're going to see a better future for us. Because we know we are great. They don't want to get there. They don't want to get over there. Because that takes courage. And even though all of us were born with courage, many of us use the lack of courage as an excuse to not evolve. I was having this reflection earlier today about toxic people. There was a time in my life when I was heavy into my Aquarian rising energy. I just explained to you what that is and how Aquarius is a bit more idealistic than the other two, where I just wanted to see the good in everyone. And I was very good at projecting the good that I wanted to see in you, on you, whether or not you had it. You know, you could show up in my life showing me all of these characteristics that speak to who you really are. You know, someone, as an example, you could show up in my life as someone that is dishonest. And I would know this about you, but I would explain to you why dishonesty hurts us. Because I wanted you to see my heart and how it was bleeding so that you could understand the role that you play into causing it to bleed. And I was convinced that you love me so much that if you saw my blood, you would make it stop. Because you didn't want to harm me. But surely if you saw my blood, you would know I was harmed. And you would make it stop. You know what Capricorn has taught me? Anyone wants to guess?